What's the single best piece of advice you've ever heard?
The grass isn't greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. Don't spend life daydreaming about what could be in a different place or circumstance. Instead, invest your energy in what is right in front of you and see how it can be cultivated into something beautiful.
Be the person you needed in life. Gave me something to think about.
You don't get paid based on how hard you work. You get paid based on how hard you are to replace.
Have more than you show. Speak less than you know.
No one who is great at something was always great at it.
Anything that annoys you when you're dating, you're going to get from both barrels when you're married.
The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Don't sweat the petty things, and don't pet the sweaty things. I first heard that from a homeless guy in Knights when I was 15, and I thankfully gave him a few bucks thinking I just learned some sage hobo wisdom, until I got home and my dad told me it was a George Carlin quote.
Marriage advice. Pick your battles. Seriously, this helped me so much over the years as I've come to understand that most things just aren't important enough to argue over and that you don't lose anything by letting things go.
In order to get something you never had, you have to do something you've never done.
Something my mother taught me at a young age. The person in control of any relationship is the person who cares about it the least. I've found that to be true, whether we are talking about employer-employee relationships, husband-wife relationships, friends, or any for that matter.
Don't prepare the road for your kids. Prepare your kids for the road. Got this gem after joking about the cat going to live on a farm. And they are 100, correct? Kids need to see how the world really works, especially since you are there to comfort them and help them through it. If you shield them until they are out on their own, they are going to have an extremely hard time.
Never put Dawn dish soap in the dishwasher.
Warren Buffett had some awesome bits of wisdom yesterday on CanBC. One of them was you can always tell someone to go to hell tomorrow. Basically, wait to cool down a bit before reacting to someone.
Every person you meet has lived an entire life before that moment. Remember that. My dad, if you don't like what you're doing, do something else. He went to McGill after and took engineering. He graduated and started working construction for a big civil company in Montreal. He met my mother on a construction job in a small town in Ontario. They married and the kids started to come along. Construction slowed down. He went to work in mining and stayed there for the rest of his career. He retired early and never worked again, apart from taking up writing. The whole time he had wanted to be a journalist. I follow his advice. I've quit a job on a Wednesday and started another on a Friday. Late last year, I quit a well-paying job and moved to another for about the same pay, but with the opportunity to work on technical projects I've been interested in for years. Life's too short. You spend too much time at work to not be doing something that interests you and that you find rewarding.
Getting drunk is easy, having a life takes work.
The only time you look in your neighbor's bowl is to make sure that they have enough. You don't look in your neighbor's bowl to see if you have as much as them.
Your freshman year of college, try to live in the dorms, even if you have other options, and leave your dorm room door open whenever you're home and not sleeping, studying, or masturbating. It's how you'll make the friends you keep for the rest of your life.
If you willingly associate with people of poor character, you deserve what happens next.
Jerk off before making any big choices.
Stop blaming other people for your problems and take responsibility for yourself.
One for me was just spend less than you make and actively save. Simple but life-changing.
Always sound the floor. It is a firefighting saying to use a tool to make sure the floor can hold your weight, but it has helped me throughout other parts of my life too.
The answer is always no until you ask.
If someone is trying to bring you down, it only means you are above them. Really helped me through my elementary middle school days of being bullied.
Always let her decide if she's out of your league.
An old baseball coach told me never pass up a chance to pee.
Live in reality as it is, not as you wish it was. This little snippet really changed how I approached life in my early 20s.
It is by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. Joseph Campbell.
Your success in life is largely dependent on how many uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. My former boss told me this when I was denied re-enrollment to my university to finish my degree. He encouraged me to take a day off from work, drive down to the university, and negotiate with them in person about the ordeal. Being a very non-confrontational person, I would never have done this on my own. Sure enough, I spoke to the offices about it and I was able to enroll.
He later used this line again when he had to lay me off because of financial constraints.
But thanks to the same advice, I was planning on leaving work anyways to attend school full-time.
My mom has a high-pressure, 6-figure job, a huge house, a husband with no common sense with money, several pets, and 3 kids. She's told me 1,000,000 times to simplify. She said to buy a small, easy-to-maintain house and to think well before adding any dependent, so I don't have to work a stressful job 50-60 hours a week every week to pay for everything. Basically, she's telling me not to make the same mistakes she did, and I'm doing everything I can to make the sacrifices she made so I can live a decent, low-stress life worth it.
Never make someone a priority who only makes you an option.
Smart people say I don't know. Let me find out the answer and get back to you. Dumb people just blurt out their best guess.
Soldier, is this the hill you want to die on? It's not advice, but it's a saying my dad uses. The gist being pick your battle.
Sometimes the best way to solve your own problems is to help someone else, Ira.
This will pass. It may pass like a kidney stone, but it shall pass.
My dad told me this and I hold true to it. Don't do anything you feel you'd have to lie about later.
I feel a little weird, but it's something Louis C.K. said actually. When a person tells you that you hurt them, you don't get to decide that you didn't.
If no one from the future came to stop you, how bad can it be?
Drink plenty of water.
Worrying is a waste of your imagination.
If you're not honest, nothing will ever change. My anorexic best friend told me this at her worst time during a stay at an inpatient eating disorder facility.
Never refuse a breath mint.
Would you rather be right or happy?
If you do not love, honor, or respect yourself, you will never get that from another person because external relationships are a reflection of the internal state. You did not deserve to be abused, but how well you sat back and accepted or rejected the abuse depended on what you thought you were worth. If you thought you were worth better, then you would demand better. If you don't want crap, stop accepting crap and demand something more. It was painful to hear and felt like a burden of blame. It took many years to understand that it was a gift of responsibility and a statement that I may not have intentionally gotten myself into that state, but I did not have to remain in that state. I was not helpless in the situation. In her way, she was trying to empower me. I understood that if I wanted change in my life, I was the one to make it happen and should stop blaming my abusive childhood, my abusive relationship, the state of poverty that I was in, and the fact that I was not actively doing anything to rise above the depression I was experiencing. It was time to take responsibility for my life, but then again, responsibility can be perceived as a burden until it is understood as the protection that it is.
If you don't expect anything, you won't be disappointed. My grandpa told me this when I was a kid.
I described a falling out in incredible detail to my sage of a friend and asked him whose fault was that. Why does it have to be someone's fault? Opened up a new world of better, more positive thinking for me.
The world owes you nothing.